Welcome to this first digital conference. Is it your first digital conference? It's my first digital conference, so I'm really excited to be presenting. Heads up to the team that have organized DevConf. You guys have done an absolutely amazing job moving the conference from 2 major cities to a digital event. So hats off to Candice and Rob. Well done, you two. Kudos. Right, so thank you for joining my presentation today. What I'm going to be talking you through is what are you doing to ensure that you stand out in the South African IT industry? Now, it's becoming more important that you are standing out, not just from the work that you are doing, but how you are portraying yourself online and how you are putting your best foot forward. So even though my presentation is about the South African IT industry, I want you to also think with a global mindset. There are so many global opportunities, and I really feel that this coronavirus is allowing more global work, more remote work, and I do think it's going to be the way of the future. So what I want to highlight here is that you want to be standing out full stop, not just in the South African IT industry, but in the global IT industry. So without much further ado, let me tell you a little bit more about myself. So I am known as Squirrel. So if you see any reference to a squirrel, that's also the name that I go by. But essentially, my name is Vanessa Raath. I've been associated with the IT community for a long time. I've presented at several developer user groups, Girl Code events, SharePoint and SQL Saturdays, and I love giving back to this community, which is essentially pretty weird because sometimes my role as a sourcer or a recruiter is actually seen as being the enemy. So one thing I'm very passionate about is personal and career branding. I think that this is the way that people are going to find excellent jobs in the future. It's the way that they put their best foot forward online. And that is the way that we are interacting with people now more than ever, is we meet them essentially first up online. And this is why we need to be so conscious of the branding and the messaging that we are putting out there. So those of you who I may know, hi to anyone that I do know, it's good to see you here. I recruited for Ultron Carabiner, or as we were known as Carabiner, for 10 years. But actually a year ago yesterday, I celebrated my 1-year anniversary of my own business. I recruited for them, very much involved in the Microsoft application space, which is why I got so involved in the Microsoft IT communities. Now, I'm still active in the IT sourcing space. However, I only work internationally now, and I'm a freelance sourcer, which is basically a fancy word for saying that I find the best talent all over the world. I source talent for many global brands through the EMEA region. So there's a lot of good talent through Africa. There's a lot of good talent through Europe. My clients sit in Europe, Canada, and Australia, and I kind of just move the best talent around the world. Some people relocate. Some people just take on remote work. It's great fun. I really, really enjoy it. My main business focus at the moment, however, is I do sourcing training. So I train recruiters on how to recruit candidates better, IT candidates and general candidates too. And I also spend a lot of my time doing this, not digitally, if I'm honest, but I do a lot of presenting. I deliver a lot of keynotes. I was supposed to be going off to present in Portugal, Estonia, and the UK this year, but unfortunately everything has been put on hold to this pesky virus. But let's see what the future holds. I'm hoping that they pop up again. So let's have a look and see what we're going to be discussing in my session today. So first of all, we need to look at why we need to have an awesome online presence or personal brand these days. It's becoming more and more important. It's the way you stand out from your peers. We're going to look at how you're going to stand out from the rest of the pack, specifically on LinkedIn, because even though LinkedIn is a social media platform, it's a platform where professionals can meet. Basically, a lot of recruitment is happening here. I believe it's turning into more of a job portal than anything else. I don't know if you feel the same way as me, but people like yourselves who work in the IT industry are busy people and you're in demand. So you don't really have time to go and put your CV onto a PNet or a Career Junction anymore. So the recruitment is happening. How we look at it, we look at passive talent. So we go and find the best people for the job. They may not be on the market, but as soon as we give them a call and tell them about an awesome opportunity, we hope that they will be interested in these exciting roles. Also, we're going to be discussing your CV. Does it stand out from your peers? What can you do to make yourself look better on the CV? And then we're also going to be looking at what are the most in-demand IT skills of 2010-20 according to HackerRank, because we've got to make sure that you're on the right career path. It's no good looking at older technologies or technologies that are no longer in demand. in this industry, more than any other, you have to stay relevant. You have to have the right certifications. But that in a nutshell is what we're going to be discussing. Please, questions at any time, you're more than welcome to ask me. But in the meantime, let's get going and start looking at your online presence and your personal brand. So there is a bit of confusion around this. A lot of people do get confused as to what a personal brand is. So let's start with that. So basically, your personal brand is what other people say about you when you leave the room. It's your professional reputation. And more in the society that we live in, where social media has become such an integral part of our lives, it's so important to have a really good online brand. And the reason why we need this is what is going to differentiate you from other people. This is what's going to make it easier for people to find you. Remember, again, we must have a global mindset. So you want to be found by good people who are looking to staff up their teams globally and from a South African context. So if you're more active online, you are going to be easier to find. You are going to be offered the best projects and the best opportunities out there. So what we need to look at before we start is social media is a big beast. A lot of people are very nervous around social media. They don't always know how to use it. They don't know where they need to be. But one thing that we need to be sure of is that when you are online, we need to know where you are and how are you behaving. This is very important because social media can work in your favor, and most of the time it does, but it can also be a negative. So I'm going to ask you two questions. The first question is there anything on your social media platforms that you would not put on a billboard? And the reason why I ask this is that you need to almost make sure that your internet footprint is clear. You might say, but Facebook's my personal presence and Twitter is my personal presence. Why do people go and look at these things? And the answer to that is quite simple. It's because we can. And it's what we do in society. Even before you meet someone new, you're going for an interview, you got a meeting with a new client, you may be going on a blind date, you will check out that person on social media. It's the way that we operate these days. So my advice is always, if you have something on your social media platforms that you wouldn't put on a billboard, say on the M1, for people to see when there was traffic, you need to think about, should it be on social media? You need to be following your gut. And the second thing is, do you have anything on your social media platforms that your mother does not know about? Because this is also an important question to ask yourself. People who are in a position to hire people, so talent acquisition specialists, hiring managers, a lot of startups in the IT space do a lot of their hiring via the CEO. They don't have a dedicated person. They will be checking out your online brand, your online footprint. And I really don't want them to find anything that might make them think twice about what they see. So this is just a warning to you that it's a very good idea to go jump onto Google yourself, see what you can find out about yourself. And just remember, you want to be seen as someone who's trustworthy and worthy of a company's time. And it's important that that is the image that you are portraying. So what I want to know, first of all, is do you stand out online? And we have to stand out online these days because other people are standing out online. They're creating this awesome online brand, and you are going to be left behind if you're not doing the same. I do realize in the IT industry, having worked in this industry for 13 years now, is that IT professionals are quite a shy bunch. Not everyone, I know this is a generalization, but we're also not very good at portraying ourselves online and putting our best foot forward. We need to start changing the way we're thinking about this, because what is happening is that I'm worried that a lot of IT professionals are going to be left behind because they don't have a strong online presence. So the first thing is, what are you trying to achieve by growing your online presence, and what is your strategy? So I feel that you might not necessarily be in the market at the moment. You might be loving where you're working. You might be running your own business like I'm doing, which I'm also loving. You don't maybe want to be headhunted or be found for a role, but it's still good to be able to have a good online presence. I was contacted by a company recently, it was earlier this week, saying that with this coronavirus, they've lost a lot of their clients. They're sitting with 31 Java and C# developers who are about to be retrenched. Now, that's unheard of in the South African marketplace. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help those people to find different jobs. You never know what's around the corner. So where you might be quite comfortable running your own business or working in an organization now, You never know what the future holds. It's a lot easier if something suddenly changes when you have an online brand that you can lean on. So we also need to start thinking about your strategy. You know, the reason that you want to be working on your online brand, is it to help others? Is it to stand out from others? Is it so you can keep getting the lion's share of the good projects and jobs out there? Just think about your reasoning behind this. You don't need to let this put you off getting started, but you just need to think, why are you doing these things? Also, one thing that I want to emphasize is that, are you using strong visuals every time you post on any platform, and are you posting regularly? So for me, there's several different social media platforms out there at the moment. Facebook for me is becoming more of a professional tool. It's not becoming as personal as it was when it first started. LinkedIn is still your go-to professional platform, and that is where you find a lot of professionals. Granted, not a lot of IT people are on LinkedIn these days. The reason being is that they have been harassed by recruiters on there for so long. And I understand why someone who's a developer would rather be on GitHub, where they can chat with other developers, they can display their code, etc., etc. So LinkedIn for me is still a good platform. I know it's not that popular in the IT community, but it's a great platform to start growing your online brand. So there's many different platforms you could be looking at. There's your typical IT ones. There's your GitHub, your Stack Overflow, your Kaggles, your dev.to. More about those later. But if we look at the big 4 social media platforms in South Africa, those are your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your Twitter, and your Instagram. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking, but this is my personal, this is my private, how am I going to do this? The problem at the moment is that there's now what we call a work-life integration, where not the person who goes to work and works from 8 until 4 and then goes home. You don't leave your problems at the bottom of the elevator or the stairs when you go into the office. Everything's becoming integrated because everyone now has a smartphone and everyone's pretty much working 24/7. And the same analogy I can give for your social media is that you have very little control about who's posting about you, who's putting what on these social media platforms. And it's important that you're aware of that, because people are creating your online brand for you without you maybe knowing about it. So you may as well work on your online brand yourself and make sure that you've got a good presence on the big 4 in South Africa. Again, your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your Twitter, and your Instagram, because that is where people will be looking at what you are doing and seeing how you are adding to the community, where do your passions lie, and why you would be a great fit for a new project which they are about to launch. So when we talk about posting regularly, that's completely up to you. My advice is get posting 3 times a week on LinkedIn. Join your LinkedIn and your Twitter feed. So every time you're posting on LinkedIn, it goes out into your Twitter feed. And also start using Facebook, maybe more in a group setting. Join some groups. There's a lot of big international groups for IT professionals. Join them and get active. And what are you sharing on these platforms? Because it's so interesting to see that the posts that people are posting that are coming from their personal experience, so either a problem on a project that they encountered, what they learned by completing a project, someone who they were inspired by, a different way in which they approach something. Those posts actually perform better than anything else. So people like to hear stories. We all grew up hearing stories. People still like to hear stories. So I encourage you on these platforms. Share stories about what you've been doing from a work perspective. Obviously, if you can share your stories from a work perspective, it's very important. You don't want to be divulging client information that you're not allowed to. But share, because the more you share with people, you might not think it's important to you. But trust me, there's a lot of junior people who are on these platforms. They're just starting out in their careers, and they can learn something by what you are putting out there. It's all about sharing. It's all about caring. I read a very interesting article about this lockdown period, which we're experiencing in South Africa, and how people are not going to remember what you did for them, maybe, but what they are going to remember is how you made them feel during these turbulent times. And what a better time than now to share some of the stories of what you have learned throughout your IT career. That is always a good way to attract talent to you. Following on from that, also very important, do you create and curate engaging content with a call to action? So remember that what we try to do on these platforms is that we want to try and drive engagement, because those are the posts that do the best. Those are the posts that are pushed by the platforms, and those are the posts that more people are going to see because they appear in their news feeds. So when you are posting something, it's always good to ask a question. So if you've done a post about a project that you just completed, you could say, has anyone else had issues with Microsoft Azure on one of their projects, or an AWS issue, etc., etc. It's good to get people talking and collaborating. It's very difficult to comment and interact with a statement. So if you are just putting out a post there that says, well done to the team on this awesome project implementation at company X, Y, and Z, and there's a lovely photo of your team. Share how it went. What did you experience? What did the client do? What would you have done better next time? What would you definitely use in your next projects going forward? Again, not giving away trade secrets, but this is your personal opinion, which you are sharing with people in the greater IT community. So I encourage you to ask questions, get people to interact. What worked for them? What didn't work for them? Etc., etc. This is a great way to get a lot of engagement on your posts and to ensure that that post is seen by a lot of people. I'll also encourage you to get involved in a lot of groups online. So these could be groups on social platforms like your Facebook or your LinkedIn. But there's also a wonderful site called Meetup, which I know that the developer user group uses to organize their events. So I think a lot of you will be on there already. But there are loads of groups which you can go and join there. What it's nice to see is that, well, I hope no one is holding a gun to your head to join these groups and go and attend the meetups. I'm sure that they're not. But what is great is that for me, as someone who I'm looking to build the best teams with the best tech talent globally, I want to see people who are actually using their own time to go and learn, to go and further themselves, to go and add value. So I like to see people who are running these groups, who are adding value to the community, who are giving back, because that for me just completely rings of passion. And that's what people want these days. They want people who are passionate about tech. They want people who want to learn in their own spare time, you know, people who are doing these things in the evenings just to better themselves. And also very important, are your posts positive? So this is important because no one likes a negative Nelly on social media. So no one wants to see that developer who's moaning about being stuck at home with his family and they're trying to code because everyone's on lockdown for the coronavirus. Now, that's definitely not great. You want to be positive. You want to be sending out a positive message out there. Positivity attracts positivity. Positivity will attract positive people. And that's what you're looking for. Nobody wants to hire someone or put someone in their team who's going to change the team dynamic, change the team culture, and really just bring everybody down. Positivity goes a lot further than what you think. So please think twice before you post something. If you've got that funny feeling in your guts before you post something, ask yourself, would I put this on a billboard? Would I share this post with my mother? Would I tell her? These are very good measures to keep you on the right track. And then just to finish is, do you use social media to set up introductions before you attend events and conferences? So I'll ask you the question of, and I've had a couple of people do this, which I was very impressed with. Obviously, people wanted to attend my session and they have sent me a message on LinkedIn and they have said, we're going to be in your session at DevConf. Can we maybe set up a meeting afterwards? A lot of companies who are the sponsors have said the same to me. Vanessa, we want to talk with you when you're down in Cape Town. Even now that the conferences are gone digital, I've had a lot of people send me a message saying, I'm looking forward to your presentation at DevConf. And it's a great way to meet speakers because the speakers that you're going to be hearing from today, and I believe there's over 50 of us, are the people who are seen at the top of their game. And these are the people that you want to be associated with. These are the people that you want in your network. If anything goes wrong, you want to be able to reach out to these people very quickly, ask them questions, ask them advice, and really just make sure that you can learn from them, because that's how we learn as human beings, as we learn from each other. So you need to start doing that, using these social media platforms to link up with people, to make sure that people are seeing these mutual connections. It's going to go a long way for you to build your online profile, for people to see that you are connected to key players in your chosen industry. Another thing we need to remember is that we need to set professional goals and reach them. Now, I'll be honest with you, my goals for 2020 have gone out the window. My goals were to get more international, was to go and present at these international conferences, which isn't going to happen. I've had to reassess my goals and reset them. But also, you know, we need to always be learning. So I hope a lot of you are using this time. I'm seeing a lot from your acclaim popping up on LinkedIn, people getting extra certified in different things. And I think that that's awesome to see. You know, people aren't wasting this time. I'm busier than I've ever been. I'm training online to big corporates, locally and internationally. So I encourage you, use your goals, reach them, make them visual, put them up on a board, and always be learning. So ABL is something that I choose to live my life by, which is always be learning. Learn as much as possible. And again, once you've worked on your online presence, you've got a good online presence, your LinkedIn profiles are looking really good, as well as your wherever you else have a presence. Are you connecting with the hiring managers of the companies that you want to work for? So if you've identified a company that's doing exciting things in the IT space, locally or globally, if you know they're looking at remote workers or whatever the situation may be, connect with them. If they are the team lead, connect directly with them. Let them know what your intentions are and how maybe one day you'd aspire to join their team. There's nothing stopping you from doing this these days, because social media is actually doing away with all of these boundaries. You don't need to go through the HR department. The HR department is going to be angry, but that's just something that they have to deal with. But connect directly with people that you would like to work with one day. People like to hear this. And remember, just want to highlight this, is that you can and must use social media to your advantage too. A lot of people think that, you know, people who are on talent acquisition teams or hiring managers are going to go and look at their Facebook profiles, and they're going to look for a reason not to hire them. Oh, look, this guy drinks beer on a Friday afternoon. Trust me, people like to see that. That's human. It really isn't a problem. Also, what people are looking for is they're looking for good culture fits. So, you know, if the company is a very sporty company, there's people there who are running marathons, doing Ironman, mountain biking events, etc., etc. If you are showing the same kind of activity on your Facebook profile, they know that they're probably going to be easily able to tick that culture fit box. And that culture fit box is a big one. So you need to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward on social media, showing what you do, showing what your hobbies and interests are, because companies are interested in this. This is a bit of advice to you guys of how not to behave on LinkedIn. I was actually training a group of talent acquisition specialists the other day, and this profile popped up. And not to give away too many names, this is what the guy has put on his LinkedIn profile. To all recruiters, leave me alone. I just started a new job, and no, I don't know anyone else who is interested. And this is why I say that IT talent is pretty much not that active on LinkedIn as they used to be. Look, there's still a lot of people on there. However, it's because of things like this. And I must admit that this is probably a bit of an extreme reaction, because heaven forbid that this person does start looking for a new job, and now he's made his name a little bit mud through the talent acquisition community. However, it's probably not the best way to be behaving online. So remember, use social media to your advantage, maybe not like this. So let's have a look at LinkedIn as a platform. And the reason why I'm going to highlight LinkedIn here, even though I say IT professionals are moving away from it, LinkedIn is very much becoming like a job board, a job portal. There's a lot of recruitment happening on LinkedIn. If you are thinking about, you know, maybe making a change, you want to change your work setup, look at a remote option, etc., LinkedIn is where the recruiters are. You all know that. I know that you get irritated by them. I know that you are sick and tired of being inundated with messages from them. I get it. But if it's time for you to move, you might actually need that assistance of that recruiter or talent acquisition specialist. So a couple of things that I want you to go through on your LinkedIn profile. First of all, you need a nice, clear, head and shoulders professional photo of yourself. This is really important. No one in their wedding outfits would be great. It would be good. Not the pet in the photo, but a professional photo of yourself. If you don't have a picture, it's very difficult for someone to start forming that online relationship with you. Instead of putting a headline, so it's putting in there that you're a data scientist or you're a C# developer, on your headline, maybe just write something along the lines of what you do. So, I mean, you could be changing the tech world. You could be a pioneer in digital transformation, making companies' lives better. You could be improving the digital footprint or digital solutions within an organization. Think out of the box here. This is where you need to be quite clever with how you are going to be standing out. So this is your headline, is what appears under your name on your profile on LinkedIn. There's also a lovely about section, which they give you, which they've now actually souped up a bit. And you've now got a features option on LinkedIn where you can add connections, you can add pictures and links. So if you've got any new certifications, you can go and add them on there. It actually shows up really nicely on a mobile device if you go and look at a LinkedIn profile on a mobile phone. But fill these things in. On your about section, that would be where you would use your old traditional cover letter. So don't send a cover letter with your CV. People don't read cover letters. I hate to break it to you. People will have a look at your CV, but cover letters are becoming a thing of the past and have been for a while now. So in your about section, that is where I encourage you to put what you would put in your old cover letter. Let your personality come out there, okay? Tell us a little bit about what you do. What are your hobbies? What are your interests? Remember, it's not just about your one-dimensional person who goes into office from 8 till 4 these days. We need to get the culture fit right. We need to know you're going to fit into our company, our team structure, and we want to know your interests outside of the business. Also, very important on your profile is your recommendation section. I would try and get some recommendations, try and bulk that up. It definitely goes a long way when companies are looking at this for good people to add to their teams. And a good way to do this is by giving people recommendations. Again, there's no time like the present. We're on day 7 of a 21-day lockdown. Use this time to try and work on your profiles, boost your recommendations, etc., etc. Also, on LinkedIn, there's a lot of sections which people don't fill in, like your volunteer experience and all of that. You need to include information there. No one will ever reject you on LinkedIn from a connection request because you work at the church fete or you volunteer at the SPCA. These things are good to see because it shows that you've actually got the human side as well as having that great IT brain. And it's more important that you're starting to fill these things in on your LinkedIn profile. We actually get a lot of space to put a lot of information on LinkedIn, but we don't always take advantage of it. So we must make sure that we're filling it out in its entirety and giving as much information as possible, because that's what's going to make you stand out from everybody else. And then get active on these platforms. I encourage you to react, comment, and get back to people. You need to think of your LinkedIn email. You need to think of it as like your second inbox. You need to get back to people on these, comment on other people's posts, share other posts, react, because that is how you are going to be standing out yourself as someone who is worth talking to and somebody that would like to get onto any company's team. So let's have a look at your CV quickly, because your CV is a very, very important document. It needs to be kept up to date at all times. So as soon as you get a new certification or you do something new or you get a promotion, please go and update your CV. At the same time, when you update your CV, go and update your LinkedIn profile. They kind of work in conjunction or tandem with each other. So what I need you to do is I need you to tailor your CV for each position that you are applying for. This is very important. You don't have to make major changes here at all. I don't want you to lie. I don't want you to make up new job titles or new duties. But just if you see on the role description up front that they're looking for something and it's not on your CV, go and put it on your CV, because this is a matching game. You've got a lot of people out there who maybe don't understand the tech. And what they're doing is they're looking for keywords in the role description to match to keywords on your CV, which is why your CV and your LinkedIn profiles is a constant work in progress. Because you might see a role description that sounds interesting, you're not going to apply for it, but you think, oh, I'm add that to my CV because I haven't put down that I've got this experience. Again, you've got to remember to include all of your achievements. So any small certification, even if you do a Udemy course, people, please make sure that you're putting it onto your CV and your LinkedIn profiles. The reason for this is that people do Udemy courses in their own time. They're interested in their self-development, their self-learning. And this goes a long way for someone who shows that they're dedicated to their career. They're going to take the extra time to do the learnings. So please make sure that you add it in, no matter how insignificant you think it may be, even if it's a 100 Rand Udemy course, please just add it in. Even if it's not in line with what you are doing. So say, for example, myself, I've actually done data science courses through Udemy just because I'm really interested in data science. I would add those because it shows that it's an outside interest of mine, because it's very different to what I do day to day. Also, your CV, please remember to proofread your CV carefully. Once you have finished proofreading it, send it to someone or a couple of people, get them to proofread it. You'll be surprised at what they notice and what they pick up. You know what it's like when you've stared at a document for too long. And basically, use a cover letter. Contradicts what I said before, but don't use a cover letter in the traditional way. Put your cover letter in the body of the email and tailor make your cover letter to the role. Also, guys, when you're sending your CV to a company, try and find out the name of the person. It's a much better email if you can say, hello, Vanessa, or dear Vanessa on the email. And please make sure you don't just use the same email and the same cover letter every time. Recruiters and talent acquisition people and hiring managers have feelings too. There's nothing worse than getting an email addressed to Dear Peter, and I'm actually sitting here as Vanessa. So make sure that you are making sure that you are aware of these things and that you are changing things and not just being lazy. Also, from a CV perspective, start strong on your CV. Do you grab the reader's attention immediately? Remember, the average time that someone was going to spend reading your CV is a whole 10 to 15 seconds. So you need to get the attention off the bat. There's a great tool that if you're sitting at home now and you're thinking, well, this is the time I need to start working on my CV, go onto Canva, canva.com. They have great resumes or CVs on there, resumes because it's an American site, and you can actually start working on your CV, start jacking it up, making it look better. There's no time like the present. But if a CV looks good, it's much better than a CV that is old using outdated templates. Rather make it look good and funky and get people's attention. Also on your CV, I want you to emphasize the importance of results rather than responsibilities in your various roles. So don't put exactly what your duties were. What is also nice to see is that, what did you achieve? What were your responsibilities? How did the project go? How did you influence the project, etc., etc. Don't just copy and paste your job description. Also, people are looking for industry insights through your up-to-date studies and articles and blogs, etc., etc. This is important. Blogging is very time-consuming. I get that. But even by just being active and sharing good articles on LinkedIn or wherever you maybe share them, giving back to the community is a good way to start raising your profile. And then just remember on your CV, be concise. And the reason why we say this is that some CVs can get very long. Don't ever repeat your duties from company to company because they're not exactly the same. But also make sure that a lot of people often ask me, Vanessa, how long should my CV be? And my answer is, well, how long is a piece of string? Because, how long is your career? But if you're keeping it concise and it looks good, it doesn't matter how much information you put in there. As I say, go and have a look at canva.com, some great ideas of how to put together a really, really good CV. It actually allows you to put so much more information into it, and that's what people are looking for. My best advice to the CV is make sure you have your keywords in place. A lot of people glance over your CV, they highlight certain keywords, and that's what they are looking for. So make sure your CV is keyword heavy with like your coding languages or whatever you have done, your duties, methodologies that you've used, frameworks that you've used, because that is also how people are going to find you by putting the keywords into a search. Also, are you active on GitHub and Stack Overflow? These are getting more and more important these days. So what people are doing with this is that they are creating really good profiles. GitHub's a great platform if you're a developer. It's a great place for you to showcase your code. It's a great way for you to go and deal with other should I say, developers, learn from them, fork their code, etc., etc. Stack Overflow, also a really good Q&A site. Go and build yourself a profile there. One that's quite new and is not really that popular in South Africa as yet, but I'm hoping it will get there, is dev.to, another good platform to be on. For those of you in the machine learning, data, artificial intelligence, there's Kaggle. And also, to have a look at your Acclaim, good place to link up if you're getting all these certifications. You can then share it on your platforms. Again, that's a great way to stand out from your peers. If you're getting the certifications and they're not, you may as well tell people that you're getting the certifications, right? So what I want to do now is I want to go and have a look at some stats around the IT space, but from more of a global perspective, and see what people are learning, what's in demand, etc., etc. If you have got any questions for me, please feel free to ask any questions as we go through this last part of my presentation. So this is, I used a site called HackerRank. I don't know if you're familiar with HackerRank. Very good sites based in the US. And basically every year what they do is they put together a developer skills report. And I always look at this to see what's happening out there in the industry from a global perspective. And you can see that the insights here are based on 116,648 developers' insights who actually took part in the survey, which they put out there. So I found the data from here fascinating to see what maybe we can predict. As we know, South Africa is not as much, but sometimes we are quite behind the curve. And it's nice to see what other people are doing and kind of what we need to prepare ourselves for. So JavaScript is this year's most widely known language. And this is again, because it has been for the last 2 years, the last 3 years, should I say. So if we have a look at the best known languages globally, JavaScript is looking strong there, followed by Java. For me, from a looking for talent perspective, what always seems to be in demand these days is Java, C# are always kind of top of the list, and they have been for several years now. There are new ones that are creeping in, but that seems to be the basis of what a lot of large organizations are looking for, and startups alike. The only difference between the results here on the best known languages from 2019 to 2020 was that C# and PHP actually just swapped places. So not too much change. So my advice from a career perspective along these lines would be to make sure that you know these coding languages. These are the key ones. These are what people are looking for, because that's why they're staying popular and why people are learning them. So I would make sure that if you're looking for something to study, you maybe want to use this quiet time to learn a new language, one of these would be a really good choice to start looking at. Then Go is the #1 language developers want to learn, and this is for the 3rd year in a row. So Golang, very popular. There are quite a few people in South Africa who have this skill. It seems to go quite hand in hand with another skill called Kotlin and Java. So this is a good one to know. This is in demand from a global perspective. I'm happy to share with you. So let's have a look at the top 5. So these are the languages that people want to learn. And remember, they want to learn because they are in demand. From being a developer, your strength is the coding languages that you can code in. So Go is leading the pack quite successfully. Python is always in demand. I always seem to be finding people who are looking for Python developers, especially down in Cape Town. Everyone in Cape Town seems to want Python developers for obvious reasons. 3rd is Kotlin. This is what is popping up quite regularly, but I see from a global perspective is that people are looking for Kotlin skills, but often Kotlin and Go are coupled together. Then TypeScript and R. I think that, with the data explosion which we've had, R is going to be in demand for quite a long time yet, going forward. Okay, so from a frameworks perspective, developers are looking at learning React, AngularJS, and Django. So 32% more developers say that they want to learn React next. But what is also good to see is that all 3 of their these frameworks are on the top 5 in-demand frameworks from hiring managers for what they are looking for. So again, React, AngularJS, Django, as well as Vue.js and Ruby on Rails. Ruby on Rails was quite popular a while ago. I haven't had too many requests for that lately. Are all what is in demand from hiring managers. So people learn what is in demand because they obviously want to meet that demand. You want to stay relevant. You want to stay ahead of your peers by knowing the best frameworks and coding languages, which is ensure that even in times like this, you're hopefully never going to be short of work or a project or anything like that. Okay, now the big one. Those that know Perl as a coding languages make 54% more than the average developer. So for me, Perl is a new one. I haven't got any requests at the moment, or I haven't had for the last 6 months to look for people with Perl experience. But if you have a look here, I mean, this is leading the pack with like 54%. So if you have a look at this graph, it says our global average salary is $54,491 US. Now, at the time of working this out, that was about 950,000 per annum. Okay, is the global average salary. But people who had Perl were earning more by almost like a half over other people, 54%, which is incredible. So if you're looking for something to learn next, something to do some research into, Perl would be a good place to start. Second on the list was Scala. So people who know Scala get 42% more from a salary perspective from your other developers. So Scala would also be a good one to look at. And third is Go, which is in line with why so many people are learning Go and why it's so in demand at the moment. But I just want to highlight there, Ruby is actually just behind Go, literally by 0.4%. So any of those top 5, I would recommend that if you want to start increasing your salary, being able to get the lion's share of the projects, look at Perl, look at Scala, look at Go, look at Ruby, and look at Objective-C. These would be good places for you to start looking. Also, Backbone.js is associated with the highest pay from a frameworks perspective. And again, based on the same salary. And this people who have Backbone are getting paid up to 49% more than other people. Followed by Cocoa by 35%. Third is Ruby on Rails again. And fourth is Spark, but very close to Ruby on Rails. Third and fourth position is almost a tie there. So again, from a frameworks perspective, these are what you should be looking at, looking into courses, learning more about. Okay, and this was a stat that actually I really found interesting. The South African developers are the 7th highest paid in the world. And I didn't think that we would rank this highly, in all honesty. So what's interesting to see is, let's have a look at this graph over here. The USA is streaks ahead by a long way, okay? Second is Australia, third is Canada, fourth is the Netherlands, and fifth is the United Kingdom. So at the moment, the Netherlands actually has a worse IT skill shortage than what we have in South Africa. You may have noticed there's a few South Africans heading over there at the moment in the IT space. Sixth is Germany, and seventh, there sits South Africa. And South African, the average global average, the average salary in South Africa, should I say, is $45,990 US, which equates to approximately 819,711 Rand per annum, which I see, I see a lot of salaries out there. I see what companies are looking for. That is in line with the average salary from an IT perspective at the moment, especially when you take a wide range from people who are just starting out in their career and very seasoned developers. So it's something to think about. You've also got to look at your cost of living in these different areas, the quality of your lifestyle, etc., etc. I would have thought that we would have been lower than 7th position, but I was very impressed to see that we were in 7th position. Now, globally, 39% of developers feel that they're paid unfairly compared to their peers. So I just thought I would share this with you because this is a common problem that I'm hearing in the South African market. People feel that they're underpaid, that they're talking to colleagues and they're finding out what they're earning, and this is becoming a bit of a problem. So as a result on here, the question was, do you believe you're being paid fairly compared to your peers? Now, HR jumps up and down about this because people shouldn't be talking about their salaries, but let's face it, people always talk about their salaries. So 26% of the results were not sure. The yes result was on 35% and the no result was on 40%. So this is a global problem. So if you're sitting there feeling a little bit dejected, knowing what your colleagues are earning, just to let you know that you're not alone. And this seems to happen a real large amount in the IT industry. So guys, in closing, if you are ready to dip your toe in the water, if you're ready, I just want to ask you a few questions and give you a bit of advice. The first thing that you need to make sure about is, do you fully understand your cost to company? A lot of the times people move and they change jobs and they suddenly realize that even though they've changed country or they changed location or they've changed jobs, they're coming out with less money. And that could be because the commute is longer, there isn't a work from home option anymore, they've been forced into some medical aid, which they don't really want to pay, or provident fund. So you need to have a really good understanding of what you are getting with your cost to company, especially those of you who are working in a bank. And a lot of people forget to take into account you're getting reduced bond rates, reduced car repayments, loans, and all of these things add up. So make sure you fully understand your cost to company. Know what your net is, know what your gross is, know what your benefits are. There's no use going into this, coming out worse off than what you went into this process. Also, as mentioned, I want you to Google yourself. I want you to make sure your internet footprint is clean. You have no control over this. Companies, hiring managers, talent acquisition teams will be looking at your internet footprint holistically these days. It's not like they're just going to be looking at your LinkedIn profile. They're not just going to be pulling your CV off a career portal. What do these sites say about you? And remember, we're not looking for the negative. We're not only looking for that photo of you maybe after a few too many beers. We're looking for culture fit matches for organizations. And it's important that you are portraying yourself and putting your best foot forward. You know what you shouldn't be posting about: politics, racial views, etc., etc. You need to use your EQ on this one, because this is something that you have very little control over, especially if someone else is sharing posts on your timeline which you are unaware of. Also, you kind of need to know what you're looking for. It's pointless saying, right, this job is ridiculous, I've had enough, I'm moving on. What kind of work are you looking for? You know, is it time to look for some remote work, international company? Do you want to get into a consulting house? Do you want to get into a big corporate? Do you want to work on enterprise systems? This is kind of what you need to know before you start looking, because you are going to have a lot of options being in the IT space. And there's nothing wrong with that, because, you know, options are great. You've chosen the right career. If I was to go back and study, there's no doubt I would have definitely have learned how to code. But you need to know what you're looking for, because when you are inundated with offers and people who want to get you on your team, you've got to know what you want. Don't be clouded by the number on the contract. Know what you want and know what's going to make you happy, because that's more important. And then, who have you told that you're on the market? There's nothing better than networking. You can network online these days. I don't mean that you need to go and introduce yourself to everyone. You can connect with people on LinkedIn. As I said, find the right hiring managers that you can talk with, attend conferences, attend meetups. Meetups are free. You can't say that there's no money to attend a meetup. And just go and mix with people, go and interact with people. Still, for me, old school is the best way. Go and, when we could, shake people's hands, look them in the eye, and let them know that you're interested in looking. Choose a couple of people who you trust in your trusted circles and say, look, it's time for me to move on. I've kind of finished this project. I'm now doing support and maintenance. What do you know about what's happening out there? Partner with good people. And I thank you for your time. It's been a very interesting experience talking by myself in a bedroom, looking at a laptop and having no interaction. So thank you very much for your attention. I really appreciate it. I see some questions that are coming through. Manus, I just want to have a look at your question first. Thank you for the questions. So what about posting your coding music playlist options on different issues? I personally don't, but I see a lot of posts like that on LinkedIn. Honestly, there's nothing wrong with this. This is awesome. I love this. I like to see people who are doing something different, thinking out of the box. Playlists are a big thing. I'm seeing loads going around on Spotify at the moment. And do it. I mean, why wouldn't you? You're sharing with other people. You're sharing your experiences. Someone might listen to that playlist and just love it. You don't have to only put on LinkedIn. You can put on all of your platforms. Okay, next one. Is it possible to get a sample CV that would impress recruiters in the IT industries? From Homalemo. Right. Remember, this is very subjective. I can't speak on behalf of all of the recruiters in the world or in South Africa. However, you've also got to have a CV that you feel reflects you, your personality, and all of those things. So go to Canva, canva.com. Open up a free account, okay? You don't have to pay for it. And there are resume templates on there. Go and find one that you feel resonates with you, that best reflects you, and go and put your information into there. It's easy as a copy and paste job. You're welcome to share it with me. Let me have a look at it. But it's very difficult to say that one size fits all. As long as it's neat and tidy and concise and there's no spelling errors and you feel that you have portrayed yourself in the best possible way, that is your best CV. Okay, Rochelle, I've got, what do you think about a CV that's more visual, using an info chart to illustrate your skills? Love it. Absolutely love it. I think that this is a great idea. I see this coming out a lot from like the graphic designers, UI, UX people. Their CVs are awesome. You know, maybe do that in conjunction with the traditional CV, but you put an infographic on the last page? Excellent. Again, canva.com has actually got infographics. They've got great templates that you can use if you don't want to design your own from scratch. Okay, another one. From a value perspective, this is from Trent Park. From a value perspective, would a tech recruiter be more interested in a candidate with multiple IT certifications, online certifications, or a candidate that has published a strong set of projects on a platform like GitHub? Trent, the easy answer to this is both. We're looking for both, to be honest. I'm also going to say that a lot of activity on GitHub for me doesn't really mean too much, because I know people get busy. I know a lot of people can't post their code on GitHub because what they're coding is very sensitive information for a client. So we understand that, we know that. I think to answer your question, the best possible way is certifications are always going to carry you well. It doesn't matter if they're online certifications. It just shows that you're interested in your career, you're trying to better yourself, and you're trying to stand out from other people. So probably the best answer to this would be the IT certifications, online certifications are great to see, but it's also good to see good activity on GitHub. But I would put more emphasis on the certifications if I was looking at someone's profile. It's nice to see that they're on GitHub, but there are different circumstances around who can post a lot on there and who can't. Okay, Marnus, any advice for students who are entering the software developer industry? People who are entering the software developer industry have got a bit of a reputation for being job hoppers. And I understand the reason for this. Your skills are in demand, you get pulled out of your companies. My best advice is spend some time in a company, and I'm talking about 2 years. Don't move when you aren't happy with the fact that you've mastered what you were hired to do in that company. Because what happens is that you move too quickly, and you don't consolidate your skills. And what happens is you move, you're 10 years into your career, and you really don't have a strong foundation. There's nothing worse than that, because then you've kind of reached the ceiling and you can't move any further. So my advice would also be start working on your online brand, get your online footprint out there. I deal with a lot of young students from Girl Code. I'm doing a podcast with Geek Culture on Friday afternoon, podcast with Girl Code on Monday. Give back, help others, stand out from the rest of your students that are online. It's good to see. Peter says, I'm skeptical of the highest paid languages and frameworks. Could it not just be legacy tech that is hard to find people willing to work in? You're right, it could be, but that's where the jobs are, to be honest. We need to be working where the demand is, what are companies looking for from a global perspective. It's a valid point. I'll take that on board. I mean, the other day I was working with a company and they were still looking for Delphi developers. I mean, I said, do you want me to go and knock on the door at some old age homes and get some Delphi developers for you? Because I mean, it's such old, antiquated technology, but people are still working on this legacy tech. And the salary was enormous because they just couldn't find Delphi developers. So it's up to you. Do you want to equip yourself, to be able to make sure that you've always got work, or do you want to be looking at new coding languages, or is it a combination of the both? It's completely up to you. I'm kind of telling you what's out there. Okay, Stephen's asked a question. Is it worth learning a totally new language, let's say Go, if you have focused on a particular platform your entire career, say .NET? Would it not disadvantage you with a lack of experience? Awesome talk. Thanks so much. Stephen, thank you. I appreciate that. Stephen, for me, any learning is not going to do you a disservice. I think .NET is a great platform. I'm glad you know how to code in .NET. It's in demand. I see it popping up regularly. But it's something that I would start looking at on the side, is to maybe start teaching yourself Go on the side. So maybe make it your focus, make it that this is going to be your new career. Stick with your .NET. But if you can go to market and say, I've got .NET and Go experience, it's going to stand you in better stead. And remember that you don't need to know the coding languages inside and out, upside, everything. You need to know how to use it. You need to know how to code in it, and you will do a lot of learning on the job. So my advice is to go as .NET as your strongest platform. You are the subject matter expert in that space. You've worked in it for 10 odd years or whatever it may be. But Go is something that you're also learning on the side because it's something that you've got an interest in and you know that there's a demand for it. So that would be kind of the attitude that I would take. Next question is Demakatso. Does postgraduate qualifications like honors and masters increase salary for developers? I wouldn't say that it will increase your salary right now when you're starting off in your career. It might do further down the line. But what's happening a lot in the South African market is that there's a lot of people coming out now with degrees. So a lot of companies, when they're starting their internships or their development programs or whatever they're calling them, learnerships, is that they're saying, we actually want someone who's got a 3-year degree and they've got it in 3 years, or someone with an honors qualification, because they need to kind of cap it at a low level, because there's so many people looking for jobs, so many people who are interested, that an honors will make you stand out from someone with just a degree. So my opinion on that is it will increase your salary, because as you get higher, if I'm looking for like a CIO, CTO, a lot of people are saying that these people need to have an honors qualification or masters. And it's better to have that when you are younger. So my advice always is, don't become too involved in the academia side of things. Get your degree, get your honors, that's still fine. Do your masters while you are working, or do your honors while you are working. At least then you are earning a salary and you're getting to understand the work, what work is like, what it's like to work. You're getting like that business acumen side as well, not just the academic side of it. So I would say don't stop. I think all learning is good. It will stand you in better stead. And yes, it will increase your chances of earning a salary, especially at a corporate company that really likes to see a lot of qualifications. Okay, I've also got another question here. 3-year diploma or 3-year degree. Oh, sorry, it just moved. Does it even matter? Skill over qualification? Sure, this is such a contentious issue. So what I'm going to say is that a lot of companies want to see a degree as a base. And I know a lot of people go and do their 3-year national diploma and then do the 4th year of putting into a B.Tech side of thing. For me, the degree is always going to be more in demand, because the base requirement for people taking people into their organization is going to be a degree. So it doesn't matter if it's a B.Tech as much these days as if it's like a BSc. They both seem to carry the same clout, but they want to see that degree because they need to kind of start their recruitment processes at some level. Okay. Guys, if you also have any more questions, I forgot to mention it earlier, you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. Here's my contact details on the screen too. So if I run out of time here, then let me know. Danwin has got a question. Thank you very much for the compliments on my talk. What would you advise someone that is in IT but considering switching to a dev role? Danwin, you're never going to go wrong. Hey? I would start doing that. Developers are more in demand than other IT roles, seems to be from a global perspective. So it's something that I would definitely look at, even if you keep doing your job at the moment. What's also nice is while you're working in an IT role, you have access to developers. They're your colleagues. They may be your friends. Get them to assist you. So start spending some extra of your own time working on that developer side of things. And if you run into issues, chat to your colleagues. I'm sure that they'll be happy to help you. Okay, Akil, what's the best approach to go from a corporate organization to smaller companies, like ones consisting of developers only? So like a dev house tasked with delivering products for other businesses. I think it's all about, Akil, to be honest with you, is like who you know. You've also got to take things into consideration, like if you are in a corporate now, what sometimes falls away when you go to smaller organizations, you don't always get the medical aid, the provident fund, the benefits that you get within a corporate, but you're normally working with quite new technologies and it's smaller. You maybe have to do a lot more. You're more of like a multitasker, jack of all trades kind of thing in a startup. Best way to do is the best approach is what I've mentioned, is to start finding smaller companies that you think you could add value to, that you identify with what they're doing. You like the tech stack that they're using. You like the projects they're working on, and approach them directly. People are always looking for strong talent and IT developers. And it's always good to just make connections, introduce yourself, and start chatting to them. You don't know if you don't ask. Cool, guys. I seem to have, there are no more questions. I can wrap up. Okay, brilliant. How exciting. Guys, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you for attending my session. As mentioned, find me on LinkedIn. I'm not hard to find on social media. There's my handle. It's been on all of my slides for Twitter, for Instagram. There is my website, and there is my email address. So if anyone needs anything, again, shout out to Candice and Rob. Awesome. Thank you for still keeping this conference happening. It's been a great experience to be presenting at a digital conference. And yeah, guys, hang in there. Enjoy your day. There's some awesome speakers. Just have a jaw and learn lots. Thank you very much.